Mr. Coffman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Refresh me, what year, again, is the goal to be able to have auditable books for the Department of Defense?
It's audit ready, which means we're ready to actually hire an auditor going there by 2017 for everything. Okay. 2014 for the highest priority, what I would say is highest priority, the Statement of Budgetary Resources for General Funds.
Okay. Now, you said this is pretty complicated in that, you know, all these different echelons of command, we're not able to match our invoices up with our expenditures. Is that a correct statement?
Yes, I mean, each one isn't complicated, pretty straightforward. The problem is the numbers and the nature of the processes that we have that don't make it easy.
You know, let me tell you what isn't complicated, and what I think that unless the culture of the Department of Defense changes, then I think it's going to be very difficult to get auditable records. And here's I think the fundamental problem, and that is that that commanders don't feel the responsibility. That in different echelons of command, there are always inspections that come down, and the commanders are held accountable, even though the staff person may have a military occupational specialty, whether a logistician or some other field, where, let's say, it's an infantry commander. In that instance, they're held accountable. But in financial management, there's not that kind of inspection where the military commanders at the respective commands are held accountable. And so I think what we needed to do is change the culture of the Department of Defense to make military commanders at every echelon of command vested in financial management. So somewhere in professional military education, there's going to have to be some aspect to where they have knowledge of this. To where they are accountable, to where if they have folks that aren't keeping track, that aren't able to pass an inspection, that they don't think are going to be able to pass an inspection, prior to that, relieving them and getting competent people in there. And so until we change the culture in the Department of Defense and have military commanders at every echelon vested in financial management, I believe this problem is going to continue, and I'd love both of you, I'd like your response to that.
I agree with you fully. We recognize, I said earlier, we got to get this out of the Comptroller community and into the commanders community. The Comptroller should still be the source of information. What I would like to see is every commander say, all right, I've got a senior staff meeting.
Absolutely.
You know, what's the problem here? And Comptroller, what have I got to do?
Right.
And then it's their job to say, okay, you know, we got to fix the internal controls, which is the main thing they got to do. We need to support the installation of these systems and other steps that they'll need to take. We're moving in the right direction. The fact that we've had several meetings now, it's not the first time that we've had a meeting with the vice chiefs. So I think we're moving in the right direction. I also don't think we're there yet. I think if you randomly pick commanders at bases and installations, they might have heard of it because of Secretary Panetta's statement, but I don't yet feel that widely they would feel responsible. We got to get there, and that's one of the things I'm going to ask this afternoon of our vice chiefs. How do I help do that, or how do you help me do that? I know they're out there talking about it because we are getting some feedback. Mr. Conaway had to leave, but he's had some personal contacts at a base where the commander mentioned this. So we're moving in the right direction, but we're not there yet. And I recognize that's a key thing that has to happen.
I would just echo Mr. Hale. On the civilian side, we have taken steps to put the auditability goal on the civilian side. We don't have the same mechanism on the military side, although we are, I'll say, educating and teaching the professional military comptrollers. Again, within the military comptroller community, the goal is to get it outside and more broadly aware and share the accountability across the military departments. That's why I said we're approaching this at every angle we possibly can through the systems implementation, IT rationalization. If we take away the legacy environment, that will enable stronger controls because we'll create a more integrated environment. I think through all of these means and mechanisms we can help change the culture, but I think it will take all of them along with the sustained leadership that Mr. Hale and others here have mentioned.
You know, I can tell you, having served in both the Army and the Marine Corps, if the Secretary of Defense said today that military commanders at every level will be accountable to the financial management of their organizations, I think that this situation would change almost overnight, where you would have military commanders all of a sudden studying how to understand the financials of their organization in terms of, as you mentioned, as was mentioned here today, tracking the money spent with the invoices paid.
And that is the intent with the more detailed in the fire report. It starts at high-level auditability goals and cascades down to the military departments, and then has to get down to the command level. For the department to achieve its auditability goals, it has to get down to the command level.
Okay. Well, let me just say we've not taken that step, and I will encourage the Secretary of Defense to do so. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.